Whatever giant thing happens in the world, it never leaves our planet without changes. And it doesn't leave us, people, unchanged. Maybe some people intentionally disregard the troubles of the late pandemic to convince themselves and others that nothing is going on. But that is far from the harsh reality. It is probably also far from the TEOWAWAKI theory, as the world will probably survive this virus. Whatever happens, consequences shouldn't be neglected. This pandemic definitely presents one of the TEOWAWAKI situations. This notion of the end of the world as we know it has always been present, especially when some calamities occur. It is true of this pandemic as well, but we should memorize that. The world will definitely be a changed place for living. Like every problem, this pandemic is terrible while it lasts. We shouldn't pretend as if nothing has been happening. We don't know whether this pandemic is a short-term, manageable SHTF situation, or an irreversible TEOTWAWKI that will finally tip the balance. Maybe the upcoming years are characterized by serious and manageable health crises, including recession. Or maybe we are about to experience something that is yet unseen and unpredictable. There's no doubt that human activities influence these terrible world-threatening scenarios. Globalization has one more flip side, and we have been witnessing it due to border closures. Based on all of the happenings since the start of the pandemic, the recession is inevitable. This one, however, will be worse than the 2008 crisis or the 1929 Great Depression. It seems that the already fragile world economy, which relies on the market, is on the way to experience a harsh bubble burst. Even harsher is that one bad thing leads to another, and the whole system can be severely shattered. You know that even local disasters can cause lots of disturbances. Hurricanes, for instance, and the possibilities of breaking down the infrastructure, affecting our supply and distribution lines, clogging up or even totally disabling the health system. These occurrences initiate RAL without rule of law, or the opposite, that is, ERL, excessive rule of law, when a government can turn into the authoritarian one, which imposes drastic measures for their citizens to follow. Since we are talking about the TEOTWAWKI, the end of the world as we know it, phenomena, it is good to know that there are catastrophes that are deadly for entire nations, maybe even humanity. And these are giant asteroids, or temperature skyrocketing, or poisonous gases. No life after these devastations. Nevertheless, life is possible after the following calamities: pandemics, economic depressions, EMP, electromagnetic pulse, massive earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, nuclear and other wars, terrorist attacks. In order to make it through, you need to be willing to do what is necessary. The best option for all kinds of catastrophes is self-sufficiency, which means off the grid. Urban places are more dangerous. You need to be strong enough to deal with all the matters which cities and citizens cause when struck by some of the disasters. When in nature, it is pretty straightforward, live or perish. But living in a retreat in some godforsaken part of the backcountry is hard. It will probably be the greatest challenge you have ever faced, as you need to provide everything, from food to energy, basic health items, and weapons. Skills, knowledge, situational awareness, the strength of your hands and your mind are needed for building a roof yourself, building fires in a primitive way in order to cook and warm up, using natural remedies, properly disposing of waste. Printed books are never outdated, even if that may seem otherwise. TEOTWAWKI situations speak in favor of paperback. Survival books are a priority, but it would be nice and soul-nourishing to pack some fiction. Certainly, the must-have survival book is James Wesley Rawls' classic How to Survive the End of the World as We Know It. It is interesting to mention that James Wesley Rawls is a visionary who warned about the pandemic and its terrible consequences a decade ago. This survivalist has also authored a territory known as American Redoubt, including Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, as well as parts of Oregon and Washington, as the safest areas to move and establish a retreat. You should be aware that a weapon that has stood the test of time will also stand the test of wear and tear. So much about buying fancy beastie weapons. You don't need force, but the skill to live off the grid. It demands more than one firearm and ammunition which you need to stock up, as it can become scarce and pricier than usual. In the phrase beans, bullets, and bandages, the first two B words items protect your life. The third B word makes the difference between life and death. So, bandages, painkillers, anti-inflammatory drugs, fever reducers are must-haves. Maybe you know that each family member should have an AFAC. Knowledge of natural remedies is necessary as well. In case of suffering from some chronic disease, supplies of your medications present one more necessity. There is safety in numbers. Although you can trust your friends with your life, think twice about this when a disaster strikes, and you need to move away, into nature. The fact that you are a prepper should be known only to your family members, as they are probably the only people who won't stab you in the back, if there is this life and death situation in your city. Yet no matter how much deeper you go into the wilderness to find a haven, you are not that safe, because of intruders who want to take over your well-developed homestead. That is the reason for having a few capable adults who can monitor and even defend your home for 24 hours. The solution for this is MAG, Mutual Assistance Group. It stands for a small community tied together by the intention to survive, and the awareness that they can only do it together. Not easy, but not impossible either. You need loyal people of different professions, physicians, gardeners, farmers, teachers. TEOTWAWKI situations may transform your transportation solutions. Instead of your bug-out vehicle, which a handy way of traversing and searching through the land you settled into, horses are a much more convenient option for mountainous regions. Your bug-out vehicle can run out of fuel, and that is one more reason for a horse or a donkey to jump in. If you need to get from A to B, 4 legs are better than 2. Even though this may not sound like a really urgent matter, especially in life-threatening conditions, you need to get rid of your wisdom teeth. Being left to your own devices in the wild makes you vulnerable in any sense. Even the smallest scratch or toothache may cause nasty problems and true nightmares. Therefore, pay regular visits to the dentist as your teeth require your attention. And be aware of the importance of wisdom teeth removal. A homestead is practically always accompanied by a garden. Survival conditions also ask for some steady sources of food. In that sense, you should not forget about heirloom seeds, which are greatly suited to the whimsical nature of a small survival garden. Though more expensive and harder to find, these heirloom seeds are also open-pollinated and self-reproducible. Onions, garlic, potatoes, beans, grains, spinach, fruit are indispensable for a homesteader as sources of vitamins and minerals that keep you healthy. And one more thing about the heirloom seeds. The current position of our world indicates that seeds will be worth more than anything you may own. That is maybe our new currency, which leads us to bartering as a way of life. It was used in the past as the only form of trading. Considering the course of events in the world, prepping is welcome. But even that may not be practical in case you need to start running away. In that way, you may not come across ATMs, or they may not work. There is also a possibility of some raging inflation. As there is no cash, you can only rely on the barter economy, which encompasses anything: seeds, tools, surplus food, medicine, even nickels, but only because of their metal. All in all, if TEOTWAWKI were impossible to survive, we wouldn't be here. The instinct to survive is hardwired into our brains. These directions and indications serve to show you that not everything is doom and gloom. Maybe some disastrous events are yet to appear. We need to do our best to be physically and mentally prepared, and act accordingly. These directions are hopefully a good start.